we'll go ahead and get started. I'm also going to share before we get started a link to the slide deck. I know whenever I come to these kinds of meetings, I'm always hoping they share the slide deck right away so that I can follow along and take notes. So if that's helpful for you, that is in the chat as well. So please feel free to use those as you see fit. The one thing we do ask is if you replicate the session on your own, if you would please give credit to Wayne Risa and also those amazing sources that we use as well that we cite. So we want to talk today about Chrome extensions for educators, as well as other useful tech tips. So hopefully the goal of today is really for everyone here to walk away with something they can use. I'm Michelle Wagner. I'm a manager of educational services here at Wayne Risa. Prior to my current role, I was a literacy consultant for many years. And before that, I was an instructional technology consultant. So lots of experience in this realm and just a lover of technology. So as you think about what you might be hoping to get from today, really my goal is that you might find one or two or three things that you might be able to take back and use in your classroom or in your own personal life, just to make sure that it's useful for you. But don't feel like every one of these needs to check all of the boxes. If you get one thing from today, I hope that it's something that makes life a little bit more fun and maybe helps you be a little bit more efficient in your workload. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I want to share is not a Chrome extension, but it's something that I use constantly. It's tinyurl.com. TinyURL is a URL shortener. It's a wonderful tool. The reason why I like it is, as a former teacher, this was not case sensitive. And so a lot of those bit.lys are hard for our students because there might be a capital along with some lowercase letters, and that can trip them up. So this is just a way to make sure that it's not case sensitive and that they're able to find that link quickly and easily. So with tiny URLs, I'm a big fan. If you've ever been to a session that I've done, I usually give one. This tiny URL will take you to today's slide deck. So tinyurl.com/Chrome825. So the date. Just to make life easier, I'll also put a direct link into the chat one more time for anybody who's joining us right now, and that way you can click on that as well. Okay, so whenever I make a presentation, my first question is, will my links work? And if you've shared Google Slides or forms with people in the past, you probably have had a situation like I have, where we share something and it's, for whatever reason, the people we share it with can't see it or can't open it. And there's always that moment of frustration where we worry that they won't be able to see what we wanted them to see, or it takes time out of our session to get those links straightened out. So the one thing I always recommend is that you try out the link in an incognito mode. So when you think about incognito, basically it opens up a separate window in Chrome. It usually has a darker background, so it looks a little different, dark black and grays, than your typical Chrome window. But what it does is it allows you to see what someone who is not signed in can see. So if you were not signed in as yourself and your school computer within your own Google account, it allows you to see what they would be able to see. And it's really helpful because you can tell if those links will work. So Control-Shift-In will open up that incognito window for you. One disclaimer with this is that when you use incognito, it doesn't keep a history in the same way that it does when you're just in a normal Chrome browser. And for that reason, schools a lot of times will shut that off for students. So if you're not able to access that on your computer, that might be something you want to talk to your IT department about. They may have blocked it in your school for student safety. Okay. When you think about sharing a document, or in this case, a slide deck, I always wonder, not should I share this? I think we've gotten to the point with technology where I feel like anything we create really should be shared. It's more of an issue of how will I share this? What is the best way for me to give this information to people? And sometimes the best way for me to share something is as a template. It's something that I want people to have access to, but a lot of times we're creating content here at Wayne Risa that we hope other people use. We hope people can make a copy of even this slide deck and use it in some way within their own context. And when you share as a template preview, this is what it looks like. And this is nice for a couple of ways, or for a couple of reasons. The first being, it allows you to see the slides or the document before you actually make a copy or before you actually open it, which is really handy because a lot of times you want to see what it is you're looking at before you add it to your drive. The way you would use this is you would click Use Template, and it would open it on your own Google Drive. To make such a link, you basically transform the original link into something just a little new. And so if you look here on the screen, you can see the original link to today's slide deck. It's that long address, and the end of that address ends in edit, blah, blah, blah. If we were to take everything from the word edit out and replace it with template preview, that's where we get this view of our document. So it's super helpful. But if you ever want to share in that way, you just change the end of the URL to template preview. All right. Sometimes that's not the way I want to share it. Sometimes I want to share it in such a way that I'm forcing people to make a copy of it before they even look at it. And if you want to do that, it's again, you edit that URL in the same way you always edit everything that comes after the word edit. And here I would change those words not to template preview, but to the word copy. And that would give us the view where they can make a copy. So they don't get an option to see it before they copy it. And then they would see this screen right here. And I think we've all seen this at some point where we just click on it and we know that we can make a copy. Right. You can also share in presentation mode. I do this a lot because I feel like it takes away some of the clutter when I just share a slide deck. So depending on your preference, the presentation mode shares it in a way where they're actually looking at it as if someone is displaying the slides at the time. So they're not seeing the speaker notes, they're only seeing that presentation mode. And so that would look something like what you're seeing on the screen right now. And here again, you would just edit that original URL, everything past the word edit to the word present. So we use that a lot. And this is what the screen would look like in that case. The last one, and this is one that I actually learned today, so I'm super excited to share it with you. We can also share our slides in such a way that it comes up as a PDF. So instead of opening a document, it would actually open as a PDF on the computer. And so I want to show you what that would look like. So if you change the URL, again, everything after the word edit, to export/PDF, what it will do is force a download. So you can see here, it forces that download to come up, and then it opens as a PDF. So this can be really helpful if you're working with educators who maybe aren't logged into Google. This allows them to view it in a different way. So it can be helpful as well. One way that I use this a lot is people will share their presentations or their documents with me sometimes, and it's in a way that it's in a format that I don't prefer. And so knowing these, I can always go backwards and change my view back. So if someone shares the link with me in present mode, I can change it to view. And then it looks like the typical presentation view. So just depending on what you like and what works best for your workflow, it really can make a big difference. So that's just a way to edit some of the links that you might be accessing within Chrome. So that can open up that typical view for you. Great. Most of what we share today is going to be around Google. And when I talk about Google, I have to say I am a big Google fan. I love Google. I use it constantly. It's one of those technologies that you learn about and then you can't imagine your life without it. It's just always so useful to us. So we Google things all the time. And when we think about Google, Google owns the browser Chrome, and Chrome and Google really do work hand in hand. So I want to share just a few Chrome extensions that can be very helpful and where to find them. So we start with the Chrome Web Store. So when you go to the Chrome Web Store, a couple of things you just want to keep in mind is you always want to check the ratings and the number of people who are using it, because something can have 5 stars, but only maybe 20 users, and that might be something you want to stay away from. Otherwise, there might be things that have thousands of users and terrible ratings where they give warnings, and you just want to be aware of that too. So always check the ratings and the stars. So it's just like anything else. We want to see what other people think of the product. You also want to check those privacy practices. What information are they or are they not collecting about you? That's really important to keep in mind, especially when we're working with young people. Checking the reviews is also helpful. A lot of times, especially on the extensions that we're going to be talking about today, the reviews are super helpful because a lot of times they're for teachers specifically, and teachers will give not only how it worked, but how they used it in their classroom within those reviews. So it can be very, very helpful. One thing I do want to just bring up is that sometimes extensions have warnings and they'll tell you that it contains malware. So just make sure that you're being mindful of that. What I always suggest is that you always check with your IT department. So hopefully if you don't know the name of your IT person, you definitely want to learn that. You want to be on a first name basis with that individual because they really are trying to protect you and the devices that you're using as well as the students we serve. So anytime you have a question about any app or any extension, always check with them. And just because something is good today does not mean that it will still be good tomorrow or the next day. So if you ever have questions, always check with your IT department. When you find an app that you really like or an extension that you really like, you're going to click Add to Chrome. If you've already added it, you'll see that blue square, the blue rectangle there where the yellow arrow is pointing, that will say remove from Chrome rather than add to Chrome if you already have it. So depending on where you are, so this one is clearly one that I've already added. So it doesn't give me the option to add it again, just to remove it. One thing that you can do that's very helpful with all of these Chrome extensions is if you love them, you can pin them. And when you pin them, they will show up at the top of your browser, which is really nice. And so for this, I'm actually going to navigate away from my presentation just for a minute so that you can see up here on my Chrome browser, all of these extensions have been pinned and they're all ones that we will share today. So just wanted to make sure you saw that you can pin those for easy access. They don't all need to be pinned, but the ones you're going to use definitely pin. Just makes it easier to find. Google Docs Quick Create is really just what it sounds like. It allows you to start a new document without doing anything extra. So no going to Google and clicking on the waffle and trying to find your docs and then opening a new doc. You just have this little nice tab at the top that allows you to start a new document. So again, just to show you how this looks in practice, I'm going to get out of my presentation for a second. And if I wanted to start a new document, I would come here to Google Docs Quick Create. And I would just click any one of these. So for now, I'm just going to click Start a New Presentation. And you can see it automatically creates a new presentation for me. It's automatically saved in my drive. It just makes it so much faster. It saves a few seconds from that process. So definitely one that I use a lot. So simple and effective. There are also shortcuts for creating brand new documents. And here they are. So docs.new, sheets.new, slides.new, and forms.new will do just what it sounds like. If I type forms.new into my browser window, it will open up a brand new blank form. So if you're ever looking for those quick shortcuts, those are great ones just to remember and be ready to use. Save a little bit of time. This next one is very helpful if you happen to be like me, where I tend to have a million tabs open. So you've seen that I keep navigating out of my slide deck and back in. By the end of this session, you'll notice that I have a lot more tabs than I do currently. But one thing you can do is pin your tab. And to do this, you right-click on the tab itself, and then you click pin. So I'm going to show you what that looks like when I do it. You can see here at the top the size of these tabs right now. I'm going to pin my presentation. So I'm going to right click, and then you can see I have the option to pin. What it does is move it all the way over to the left and make it a little smaller. You'll notice that with these other tabs, I have the X's where I can easily close the windows. This one, it's not so easy to close. I actually have to right click on it and then click close, which I'm not going to do because I need this presentation up. But it makes it easier to find. When I'm working with littles, especially kindergarten and first grade, this is a great way for them to remember which tab they're working on. So if they pin one of their tabs that they're actually putting information into, you can always say, remember to go to the tab that's all the way in the left or all the way in the corner. Just makes things a little bit easier to find. Another one that I use a lot is something called Color Pick Eyedropper. And again, this is very much what it sounds like. It allows you to hover over any color on a website or in a document or anything really that you're looking at on your computer and select the specific color code. So when I show this in action, and see here, I have the Color Pick Eyedropper right here, and I can click on this and it opens up this little thing where if I hover over a color and click on it, it gives me the color code. And what that allows me to do is copy it and make sure that I'm matching the color as I go. So when you look at the other slides as we're going, you'll notice my arrows and the different shapes that I have on the screen match this Chrome color scheme. And it does that because I copied the color right from here. So that can be helpful, especially if you're doing website design or trying to make your presentation match something that maybe is branded by your district or logo, different colors. So it just makes everything kind of flow better. Next, the QR code generator. I won't spend a ton of time on this one because I think we're all familiar with QR codes. I am a lover of QR codes. I think I jumped on this bandwagon a long time ago, but I feel like they're so useful in so many ways. And this just opens up a QR code whenever you need it. So for example, I want a QR code of this particular session. I can click right here and it opens up this square. And what I usually do is snip this and just paste it into my presentation, which is what I've done there in the bottom right of the slide itself. So it's very, very easy. It's easy to do in the moment if you are in a session and you want to give everybody a link to the session or to the presentation and you forgot to make a tiny URL, or your URL is too long to give to everybody in the moment, or you don't remember it. This is a great way to quickly give everyone a link to your presentation. In terms of QR codes in the classroom, I used to use these a lot to enhance books. I would put QR codes at the beginning of books to activate prior knowledge. A little QR code of a YouTube video could go a long way, especially if students have access to iPads. They can scan that and watch a little video before they start. It can also be something they use at the end where you have an extension activity, something they could watch or do after they finish reading a text. They could have that as well. Sometimes you might want to put a QR code to enhance a station or a work group area that you might have set up in your classroom, so you could have special directions. You can use them in your classroom itself. If you have an area where students might go to sometimes to think or reflect, you could have a QR code that would take them to just maybe some calm music or some reminders, some affirmations, some of those pieces. So all sorts of ways that you can use this. Children tend to really like scavenger hunt type activities, and using QR codes makes it a little bit more mysterious, even though it's the same information you would share otherwise. So you could even make slides and share the link to specific slides throughout the room. So because I am a tab hoarder, which means I like to have a lot of tabs up at any one time, I use something called One Tab. This is an extension that I always have up. It's always running on my computer. I use it all the time. And what it does is it basically, when I have too many tabs open and I notice that my internet might be running a little slowly because it's trying to keep all of those tabs up to date with information, I'll use this button just to make sure it funnels everything into basically a folder or a list that I can access later. So you can see right before this session at 1:59, I compiled all of the tabs that I had open, and there's actually more than would fit on this one little screenshot, but I was able to put them in such a way that I can find them later. This doesn't go away. So next month, if I wanted to check it for a site that I remember being on but can't remember exactly what it was, I can go back to my One Tab history and find them all. So it's very, very helpful. To reopen any of these tabs, all I have to do is click on them. So it's really helpful to me in the moment just to kind of close everything out but not lose them. So if you like to have lots of tabs open, this can be your friend too. All right, we'll take just a minute and I'll put the link back into the presentation in the sign-in in case anyone came in late. But we have some pieces that we've already shared. So we're about 20 minutes into the session and we've covered about 9 different things. So tiny URL, incognito, pinning the tab, sharing as a template, a copy, a view only as a PDF, and then these other quick tips and extensions. If you wouldn't mind sharing 1 or 2 that you think might be useful just in the chat, if there's a number that you really like. For example, if you are a lover of tiny URL, maybe put a number 1 in the chat, or something that you're willing to try. Throw those in. Yes, the shortcuts for creating documents, your students will love those. Awesome. Okay, so hopefully that means we're finding some things useful, maybe some new information as we go here. It's always interesting to see who signs up for events like this, because I know that many of you in this room are technology experts and very proficient at what you do. And so want to make sure that you're finding this useful as well. Right. There's the link one more time to the slides and to the sign-in if you haven't had a chance yet. Okay, let's keep going. A couple of tips that I find really useful, especially when working with students. Not only do I use these as an adult in my everyday work, these are things that I explicitly taught to children because just like us, they need it to, they get frustrated just like we do. So if we can help them have these ideas and these tools in the back of their mind, they'll be able to use them as well. Control Z is the universal undo. And I say universal because in almost any program that you use, whether it's a Microsoft program, a Google program, or a Google Doc, or an email, you can undo the last thing you did with Control and Z. So if you've ever been typing an email and then for whatever reason, everything goes away and you can't find an undo button, and you spent half an hour crafting an email that's now gone, I feel your pain. I've done that. Control Z will bring it back. It undoes the last thing you did. So as long as the program is still open, Control Z will bring that back for you. So super helpful just to know that it exists. Another tip is Control K will link anything. So again, whether you're an Outlook user or a Google user, it doesn't matter. Gmail, anything you want to link, if you want to add a hyperlink, you highlight the text that you want to hyperlink and click Control K, and it will open up that box to link it. So it can be very helpful. And it doesn't need to be text. For example, if I wanted to hyperlink this control button and I push Control K, you can see it opens up something that allows me to paste a link. So Control K is really helpful. If you're in Google, you can also link it to a specific slide, which is also very nice. This is a great one if you've ever accidentally closed tabs and had that moment of panic. Control Shift and the letter T for tab will bring back the closed tabs. This is really helpful for lots of different reasons, but sometimes you'll be working in a classroom and you'll come over to a student and they'll have accidentally closed their browser. They open up that browser again, they open up their Chrome browser, pressing Control Shift and T will bring back all of those things that they lost. It will also work if you just have a single tab. So for example, you open up, we'll try one of our shortcuts, docs.new, and I'll open up a document here. And I'm just going to put the word hello. So we know that this is the document we're working from. We'll make that nice and big. Okay. Now, sometimes when you are typing, you accidentally close the tab, and I want it back. Control Shift and the letter T will reopen that document or whatever tab you had open. So it can really be helpful to you. So definitely one to kind of file away in your mind. Control Shift and T can save you a lot of frustration. So when we think about some of these tools that your students might use, a lot of what we've shared right now, I feel like I'm a user of because I love technology and it makes my life easier. And all of them are useful for students as well. But there are certain apps and extensions that I feel like are really specifically designed for students. So I'm going to share some of those with you now. Before we get started on that, I do just want to lift some of the work by Dr. Liz Kolb from the University of Michigan. She really focuses on that and the importance of really thinking about what it is that we want our students to be able to do, and then finding technology that matches. So we don't use Google Chrome because Google Chrome is cool, although I would say Google Chrome is in fact cool. We use it because whatever it is that we need our students to do, Google Chrome makes it easier for them to do. So we just want to make sure that we're always focused on that learning first. Right. This extension was formerly known as Mercury Reader, and it has been one of my favorites for a very, very long time. It is an awesome tool, and it is an awesome tool to give to your students so that they can use it. In order for me to show you this, I have three options. We can talk about lions, air pollution, or Theodore Roosevelt. The first person to put something in the chat is the one I'll go with. Which one sounds most interesting? Lions. Oh, lions. Okay, so here we go. So I have an article here on lions. I'm going to open this up. This is about the African lion. It's an article from the National Geographic. It's really nice. It's a good read. I can see myself using this. But as you can see, it's kind of, it's a website. It's not as easy to read. So when I use Mercury Reader, I'm just going to, and I'm sorry, I'm still calling it Mercury Reader, Postlight Reader. When I click on Post Light Reader, it turns it into something that's really a lot less cluttered, a lot simpler to read. So if you have students who are easily distracted, or if you tend to be easily distracted, this is a really nice thing to be able to do. One thing that I really like about this is if you have students right now that are coming to mind that you know this would be useful for, the URL doesn't change. So they can add this extension to their Chrome. And when you give them something like this to read, an article to read, they can click on this and no one knows. They just click on their extension and it makes it a little bit more accessible to them, but their neighbor doesn't know and it doesn't change the content. So it's really helpful. It's a great way to differentiate without having to create multiple documents or multiple resources. So it's just on demand there as you need it. So definitely one of my favorites, Post Light Reader. Another great resource is Print Friendly. Print Friendly does a lot of what we just saw in Post Light Reader, but it does it in a different way. Print Friendly is specific, really more for a teacher in terms of being able to print something and use it. So we have air pollution and Teddy Roosevelt. Who should we go to next? Okay, air pollution. So if I click on air pollution, here's another article from the National Geographic. And I just want to use Print Friendly to create something that I can to my students. Perhaps this is something that I'm going to distribute in a small group. Perhaps it's something that I want students to read independently, but I don't know that they'll have access to a device. So I want to make sure that it's printed. So I'm going to click on my Print Friendly extension right here. And what it does is create a PDF version of the article or the thing that is online, which is really nice. But here's my favorite part about Print Friendly. When you look at this, there's a lot of really good information. It's easy to read in the same way that our last extension made it easy to read, but this one is special because this is for printing. And if I scroll over any of the paragraphs, I can delete them. So if I don't want the fast fact, I can delete it. So I can keep deleting until I have it exactly the way I want it to be, or I might only want a paragraph. So I can do that, and it just makes it so much easier. And then when I have it the way I want it, and I'm ready to download and print, I just click PDF, and it will download that PDF for me. It's such a wonderful tool. I use this all the time in the classroom. Super helpful. Does Print Friendly take off the ads? So yes and no. In general, it does do a pretty good job of getting rid of a lot of the ads. However, if an ad is left, you'll have that same option to delete it. So just sometimes I have to manually use that little trash can icon, but yes, it does take off the ads. Okay. It is not just an extension. It is also a website. So, and it used to look different than this. In fact, it changed in the last few months. So printfriendly.com also works. So if you might be on a computer without Chrome, you can just go to the website and put it in there, which is really, it can be helpful as well. So it's not something that's specific to Chrome. Right. What we're going to get to now is a tale of two extensions. And the moral of what I'm about to share is that don't be afraid to upgrade. I'm going to start by sharing an extension that I used constantly all the time. And now I would never even dream of using it. So let me show you what I'm talking about. So there is a great, or was a great tool called Read Aloud. It was a text-to-speech voice reader that I used to use constantly. It doesn't even sound good, like it's going to read a text aloud to students. So we have apples and bananas. Anybody have strong feelings of which one we go to first? All right, I'm going to pick bananas then. So if I go to this banana page, I want it to be read to me. And so I'm going to just highlight a part that I would like it to be read. And I am going to click on the read aloud. Here we go. Any luck, you'll be able to hear this as well.
In the U.S., the country that consumes 3 million tons of bananas each year and produces almost none of them, bananas are incredibly cheap, usually less than 89 cents per pound, or in some supermarkets, just 19 cents a piece.
Okay, were you able to hear that? Okay, looks like thumbs up. So awesome. So you can hear that. It sounds very computerized, almost like a robot is reading it to you. You still get the information. I'm still fascinated by how cheap bananas are, but it reads it to you in a way that you can understand the content, which you can probably see the value of right away in terms of helping students understand content. And this is a great app. But now, as technology evolves and AI has come onto the scene a little bit more, with a little bit more force, there are better tools. So I want to share Natural Reader, AI text to speech. And before I share this with you, I'll tell you a little story from my own life. I was coming up to check on my children after I put them to bed, and I heard from my daughter's bedroom a man's voice is talking to her. And I listened for a minute. I'm like, okay, that doesn't sound like anyone I know. Who's she talking to? And it was actually Natural Reader. What you're about to see is so well done that it really does sound like a person. So I'm going to go ahead and click on, let's see if we can do our apple. Oh, we'll do bananas again. So if I go back to my bananas, and with the same passage that we read before, I'm going to go ahead and have Natural Reader read it to me. Now, Natural Reader sounds a little bit better. Let's see. You can see it takes a second for it to think about it.
In the U.S., the country that consumes 3 million tons of bananas each year and produces almost none of them, bananas are incredibly cheap, usually less than 89 cents per pound, or in some supermarkets, just 19 cents a piece.
All right. Thumbs up if you could hear that. Great. All right. So hopefully you're able to tell the difference there and how much better it really is. Natural Reader really does sound much more natural than the other option. So it's one of those things that immediately resonates with me, immediately makes me want to go to that new option. One thing I really like about Natural Reader is you get to pick who's going to read to you. So you can see here, when you sign on, you can pick your language, you can pick the person that's going to read to you. Davis is the one that I typically pick. That's who you just heard, but you can also pick Stefan or Sarah or Jane, and there's a whole nother page of people that you can choose. So students can have a lot of fun in terms of picking who's going to read to them. You can also have one of these natural readers read the child's writing back to them, which is really helpful as we teach children to revise their own writing. They can hear what it sounds like. And because AI is using clues from the writing itself, it's looking for those end marks, it's looking for punctuation and natural pauses. It's looking for those things that good writers know to put in. And so when our students hear their own writing back to them, it can be really helpful to hear, wow, he went too fast there. I needed to put a comma there, or I needed maybe a new paragraph, or it just sounds weird here when he said it. So it's a great way to really get them to hear what it is that they're writing. Wonderful tool. Okay. The next one, Fair Ad Blocker. When I originally started this presentation, I hadn't planned on really sharing this one, but I think because of what I'm about to share next, it just makes so much sense to show you what it does. So Fair Ad Blocker does a couple of things. It allows you to set how restrictive you are with ads. So believe it or not, ads are good for some of our websites because that's how they earn money, is by us seeing the ads they're able to get. Every time we click on their site, they're given a little bit of revenue from the ads that show up on the page, especially if we click on them. So when you think about Fair Ad Blocker, it lets you pick whether or not you're going to block all of the ads, some of the ads, how many ads you're willing to see on a site, those kinds of things. So for this, I've got it set to the most stringent ad blocking as possible. So it's going to block everything that it can. This is what the site looked like before. You can see lots of ads, lots of clutter. You got Capital One there on the bottom, Car Gurus on the right. You just lots of stuff here, right? But with Ad Blocker, this is what it comes out to. It still has an ad. You can still see earn $200 cash back with Chase Freedom. You can still see it has something. So it's not 100% perfect, but it really does get rid of a lot of the clutter on a site, can make it a lot better. So that's a good one. If that's something that's important to you, that can be really helpful. And again, this can be helpful for our students too. Too much clutter on anyone's screen can be distracting. So especially if you have those students who are easily distracted. Now, iFake Text is the tool that made me think I should share the last extension. So I did want to at least bring it up. This, I think, is really important as we think about the prevalence of AI and just how much we can do with Photoshop, and how sometimes you can't trust what you see. And when we think about what our students see digitally, we really have to help them become discerners of truth. And so iFake Text is a site that allows you to create something that really does look like a text message stream that you can then insert into a presentation or send it. So this could be something that someone shared with someone. So I like to show this to my students because, again, they might see what looks like a text message from someone, but it's not true. And so we always want to make sure our students know, go back to the source. Did the message come to you? Where did it originate? Did you see a Photoshop version? Could it have been fake? All of those questions that we know are important to ask should be asked. And when you look at the app itself, or the website itself, ifaketext.com brings it up. I used to use this with middle schoolers a lot, where we would have conversations. I would ask them to create a text message thread between two characters in a story. You could do it between two historical people in an event. You could do all sorts of things with this, but it's really helpful. When you look at this website, now you can tell that I do have the ad blocker on. It also tells me here that it's blocking 2 ads on this page, and it has access to the site. So again, when we think about security and safety, the extensions that are taking things off of websites will need to have access to the site itself to do that, but they don't need access to your personal information. So you just want to check those things. Like, what exactly is it pulling? So this is a good, fun tool to use with students, but also just to remind them to be careful consumers, to double check where the information is coming from. Always ask questions. All right, next, we have talked a lot about extensions. We've shared a lot of different ones that hopefully you're finding some of them useful. And if you are like me and you have a lot of extensions, Extensity is a good extension to have, because really what it does is allow you to keep better track of the extensions that you have in Chrome. The negative part of any extension is that it does pull a little bit of energy. And if you have too many things open, just like if you had too many tabs open, it can slow down your internet browser. The same is true with Extensity or any app. It can slow it down. So with Extensity, it lets you pick and choose which apps are actively running at any given time. So what do I mean by that? So here is a list of all of my extensions. The ones that are grayed are not currently turned on. So I still have them, but they're not currently turned on. So I don't have my Bitmoji extension activated right now. So it's not pulling any energy or any speed from my internet because it's not turned on. If I wanted it, all I had to do was click on it and it's right there. So I can come back to it anytime. So this is it's a great thing to have. All right, so what's made your list so far? So here are some more of the tips and tricks that we've talked about, some of the extensions. Let me know if any of these are resonating. Any of these really sticking out to you? Yeah, print friendly is a good one. I agree. I use that constantly. Even with professional development, I'll use a lot of print friendly. Yeah, natural reader. That's something else, how good it is, that it really does sound like a person. Yeah, awesome. So we'll go ahead and keep rolling through this. This next one is really fun. This speaks to my science teacher soul, right? Earth view. When you add Earth view, and again, I'll navigate out of my presentation just to show you. When I start a new tab by clicking this little plus, when I have Earth view, it does just what it sounds like. Instead of just seeing that white normal screen that we might see within Chrome, it gives you a view of the Earth from Google Earth. And the more you do it, every time it's a different picture, they're just random and they're beautiful and they make my heart happy. So if you are someone who likes Google Earth, likes seeing cool pictures when you log in, this is a good one. There's something about Google Earth that just makes me happy. This next one is Edpuzzle. And I debated whether or not to share this. And the reason why I debated is that if you're going to use this, you do have to create a free account with Edpuzzle, which doesn't really bother me too much, but it could bother you. I know a lot of people are tired of signing in and using passwords and all of that. So that is the disclaimer here. Let me show you how this one works. With Edpuzzle, you can pick a YouTube video. And I did link one of my favorite YouTube videos right here, The Power of Yet. Edpuzzle works with YouTube, and you can see it adds this little yellow button here. It says edit with Edpuzzle. And what it does, sorry, I accidentally clicked on my video. Everything's hyperlinked. Okay, let's go back. All right, when you edit with your video, it opens up into a separate window, and this allows you to snip the YouTube video, so you can decide only to show your students the first 3 minutes or the last 4 minutes or however you'd like. But beyond that, it also allows you to insert a question. So for example, if at 22 seconds, I wanted to have everyone stop watching the video and describe a challenge or to answer a question or whatever it might be, I can have the video pause, and then there's the opportunity to fill in the blank there. You can do a multiple choice. You can add whatever kind of question you'd like there. Students would have the option to rewatch it. And then when they click submit, it allows them to finish the video. So as you can probably tell, this really works with your LMS or your Google Classroom that you might be using. So depending on how you're set up in your classroom, this might be something that's useful to you. Go full page. I love this because a lot of times when I'm working with students, I want them to see a whole website page, but I'm asking them to look at it in print rather than on the screen, or I'm doing a presentation like this and I want to share an entire screen, but I can't really print the whole website because it's too big. And so go full page really helps. So I'm going to show you how this works. So if I go to one of my favorite sites, literacyessentials.org, this is a website and I have to scroll down to see all of it that's on here. So it has more information than fits on the window. When I click on go full page, it is capturing a screenshot of the entire site and making it very easy to read. And then I can come back to my presentation or wherever I'm going, and I can actually paste that in here like this. I can also download it as a PDF. So if you're trying to create something that you can print, just another way to really share information can be very helpful. So go full page. It allows you to capture the whole page. It's also useful if you're trying to help your IT department see a problem or an issue with a website that might be on your school website, and you're not sure if they'll recognize the exact place it is unless you capture the whole screen. So this can be helpful with that too. Right, scientific calculator. This is another one that I don't think needs a ton of explanation, but if you're teaching students and they need access to a scientific calculator, this is a decent one. When you click on that extension, it just opens up a scientific calculator on their computer screens. It can be very helpful so students don't have to carry 2 things around. Just really nice if they forget their calculator, it's right there for them. This is one that I learned recently. In fact, I think I learned it on Wednesday. If you're someone who likes to insert emojis into text, so whether you're in Google or you're in Outlook or you're in a presentation, clicking the Windows key and the period key will allow you to insert emojis. So it does is when you click it, it brings up a window that looks just like this. You can search for the emoji of your choice, just like you would on your phone. You can see it also has the GIFs there at the bottom. If you're more of a GIF person, you can add those as well. But it makes it so easy. You can search for exactly the emoji that you like. You don't only have to rely on those ones that you can kind of make with the colon and the parentheses. You can do kind of advanced ones. So if you're looking to find out more about any of these, there are lots of places you can go to find out more. So a few of the places where I leaned in for this presentation, Eric Kurtz is amazing. He is Control-Alt-Achieve. He's an educator out of Ohio. He's fantastic. He shares everything you could possibly imagine. Control-Alt-Achieve will get you so much information. And he has a lot of lists of Chrome extensions. In fact, one of his most famous lists is 150 recommended Chrome extensions. So I'm sharing that with you as well. So if you're feeling like I wanted a few more, this is a place you could check out. He's wonderful. He shares everything for free, but definitely give him a look. Another person, whenever I'm talking about instructional technology, I like to lean into Matt Miller from Ditch That Textbook. He's doing a lot right now with AI, but he has a ton of Google templates and resources. So if you like this kind of stuff, he's a great one too. He's also someone who podcasts a lot. So he has a Ditch That Textbook podcast. He used to have a podcast with Casey Bell, the Google Teacher podcast, just so many great resources. So he's a great place to start too. And then I alluded to her just a minute ago. She had the podcast with Matt, shakeuplearning.com. Great resources, easy to use. She makes a lot of things that are printable and just easy to follow. She's really talented at just compiling information. So this is a great place to go for information as well. And the last person I'll give a shout out to is Holly Clark from the Infused Classroom. Holly, again, she's also constantly sharing information and tech tips and just wonderful pieces of information with everyone. And she's also great at giving free webinars. So if you're someone who likes this kind of format of learning, she's amazing. And you can sign up for any of her classes. She's still active on Twitter. In fact, they all are active on Twitter. If you're in that realm, you can find them. Okay. So moving kind of right along, what's made your list again? And this is where you can see number 6. I actually used my number 5 tip to insert that light bulb. You can add any of these useful. Awesome. So yeah, I'm glad somebody put in number 1 because Earth View really doesn't have any purpose other than it's just kind of cool. So awesome. Thank you. Great. Yep. I feel like a lot of these are very specific, but when we think about what we're doing as teachers, so often what we're doing is sharing information in a way that people can find it easily. So hopefully that's helpful. We do have a little bit of time left, so I'm going to go into something that's not really an extension, but I think is worth talking about. Google Keep is a tool that I use all the time. I use it personally, I use it professionally, but it's something that's free to us. It's part of the G Suite, and I feel like it's underutilized both by adults and by students. So in its simplest form, what Google Keep is a way to take notes and remember them. So it's a way just to enter information that you'll need access to. So if you think about it as like a bulletin board of important information that you want to keep. So you can see here are some of mine that I have. If you were looking at my personal Keep notes, you would see, things I need to buy for the kids before they start school. You might see my grocery list, my to-do list. There's lots of things. So it'll set up notes and it'll set up reminders for you, and they work together. It also will access your GPS, which is really helpful. So if you wanted to share something with a specific person, or you wanted to remember, the next time I get to my school or my office or my church or whatever it is, I need to remember to tell someone something or give someone something. You can set up a reminder where when you get to that location, the reminder will pop up on your phone. So if you need to remember to pick up, the blue book the next time you're at central office, it'll tell you that, even if you're not at central office for another month. It can be super helpful. And while we know assigning writing isn't the same as teaching writing, you can use this to set up assignments for students. You can give them a checklist of resources or of ideas to write about, a checklist of things just to keep in mind throughout the day. It can be a schedule. You could use this instead of a planner if they had a checklist where every day they uncheck everything and then they start again. You can add collaborators, so it doesn't just have to be you. So in my personal life, my grocery list would be shared with my husband. And if he checks something off, I know it's been purchased. And if it's not checked off, I know we still need it. So lots of really good ways to use this. You can add images to it so your students can share a specific piece of writing in there, so you can keep track of kind of how their writing progresses. You can use it in that way. You can change the color. And so if there are people on here who might be teaching elementary, I used to love my color-coded folders and files. So you can change colors so all of your files match the way or all of your notes are the way you want them to look. You can pin it so that they show up at the top. It's very, very helpful. So I use that a lot. When I think about myself as a writing teacher, one of the things that I know from the literacy essentials is that I need to coach children on high quality writing, and then I need to be giving them specific targeted feedback. Google Keep lets me do that in some ways that are really helpful. I can give myself a specific focus for a child. I can share it with that child. But the really nice thing about that is when I add that child as a collaborator, I can set a reminder to check in with Liam again on this writing focus. Maybe I told him during our writing conference, I'm going to check back with you on Thursday to see how it's going. This is a good way to keep that in mind so that you're ready on Thursday to ask him about it again. So it can be a great way to keep track of all that. You can access keep within slides. If you're like me, you've probably ignored this little keep button, but there, if you see on the right-hand side, it'll open it up there. It'll do this in docs as well. But here again, you could have a rubric embedded into your notes, and so that the students, as they're actually writing in their document or in their slide presentation, they can see the rubric or the notes that you've given them recently. They can open it right there, and it just automatically splits that screen so that they can see it. It's not a separate window. It just lets them in. But it really does help them stay organized. I see in the chat we have someone who uses this tool and just hasn't used it with children. I do think most of what we do as adults to see the value of using with children too, as we teach them to navigate this world with so much technology. Great to help them stay organized. Really was the last tip that I wanted to share. I will say about Google Keep, it is one of the few tools in Google that I actually prefer the mobile app for. I do want to thank you all for being here today. I know coming anywhere on a Friday afternoon is a challenge, especially in the middle of summer. So thank you for being here. Have a great day, everyone.